Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, we begin today on Daf Mem Tes, the final Daf of Masechta Sotah. We're holding 3 lines from the top of the Amud. Amar Rabbi Lo bar Yevrechya, Rabbi Lo said, Ulmale tfilasa shel David, if not for the fact that David HaMelech davened for all Yidden, Hayukol Yisrael Moichri Revav. All Yidden would be involved in dirty work, selling things that get you dirty, things that are like oily and Rashi says fats and things like that get make the person's clothing dirty. These are work for poor people. So what did David HaMelech daven for the Yidden? Shenema Shisa Hashem Moira Lahem. Rashi says that it's connected to the beginning of the pasuk. The beginning of the pasuk says Ki lo lenetzach yishachach evyon tikvas aniyim. The Eibusha should not forget the poor people. And then the pasuk concludes Toivad la'at Shisa Hashem Moira Lahem, which means that you should place Yidden to be a Moira. What does Moira mean? Moira means that they should be masters over all the Goyim of the world, meaning all the Goyim of the world should see that they're not so powerful, and that the Yidden are the ones that have the true honor and the true greatness. Another thing Rabbi Allah said, if not for the fact that Chavakuk davened for the Yidden, two Talmidei Chachamim would be learning together, and because of their poverty, they would have to cover themselves with one garment. And that's how they would learn. Shenema, the pasuk says, Hashem shamaiti shemacha. I hear your voice. Yaresi Hashem pa'olcha b'kerev shonim. I see the Eibishter's, or I'm afraid of the Eibishter's work, b'kerev shonim, in the years of his life. B'kerev shonim chayeyu. In his years, chayeyu, give him life. So the Gemara Darshans, what was Chavakuk saying here? Al tikri b'kerev shonim, ela b'kerev shnayim. That amongst two, when there are two, the Eibishter's pu'ula is when you see 2 Yidden learning Torah, and they don't have enough money for each to have his own garment, the Eibishter should help them and give them what they need. Rashi says here, chayeyu. Chayeyu means give them healing, give them harchava, what each one needs for their life. Another thing Rabbi Allah said, Shnei Talmidei Chachamim hamahalchem b'derech, 2 Talmidei Chachamim that are walking together on the way, ve'ein b'neiim divrei Torah, and they're not speaking Torah together, ruyun lisaref feish. So it's deserving for them to be burnt in fire. Shenema, the pasuk says, and this is talking about Eliyahu and Elisha, Vayihi heima holchem, and they were going together, holich v'daber, and they were speaking with one another, and then v'hinei recha veish v'goymer, and there was a chariot of fire. So what does this mean? Taime deke dibur. The reason they weren't burnt is because they were speaking divrei Torah. Holeke dibur. If they were not speaking divrei Torah, ru'uyin lisarif. So then they were deserving to be burnt. Another thing Rabbi Allah said, Shnei Talmidei Chachamim hadarim be'irachas, 2 Talmidei Chachamim that are living in the same city, ve'ein noichen ze lazeh b'halacha, and they're not nice to each other or pleasant to one another in discussing matters of halacha. Echad meis, one will die, and Rashi says that the literal pshat of the Gemara is one will die through his friend. He will kill him b'sheigig, and then ve'echad gaila. So because he killed his friend b'sheigig, inadvertently, so he will have to go into exile, into Galus, as the halach is when you kill b'sheigig. So this means literally, or it means not literally, but the fact that they're not going to be able to live together. The Eibush is not going to allow them to live together in the same city. And we learned this from the pasuk that it says by this halach of killing b'sheigig, shenem, the pasuk says lo neshama reitzeyach asher yirtzach esre'eyu, that the place, the ir miklat, is made, that is, for a person that kills b'sheigig. And the pasuk describes b'sheigig as bevli das, that he killed him without awareness. What does bevli das mean? Ve'ein das ela Torah. Bevli das means that they did not have Torah amongst them. They were not teaching each other or discussing with one another in things of Torah. Sheneman, as the pasuk says, nidmu ami mibli das. My people are mute without das. And what does over there das in that pasuk mean? Torah. Rashi brings down to the pasuk, v'tishkach Torah selekecha. They forget the words of Torah. Amar Rabbi Yehuda bereid Rab Chia. Kol Talmid Chacham ha'isik b'Torah mitoich hadachak. A Talmid Chacham that learns Torah in a time when it's difficult for him and it's a squeeze and he doesn't have money, tfilasay nishmas. The Eibishter will listen to his tefillah. Shenem, the pasuk says, Ki am b'tzion yeshiv. The people live in Tzion, b'Yerushalayim, which is in Yerushalayim. Bocher letifka. You're not going to have to cry because the Eibishter is going to listen to you. Chanun, Yechanencha. The Eibishter will listen to you, L'kol Zakcha, to your screams. Kishamasai Anoch. The Eibishter will hear your pain, your suffering. Uksiv Basrei. Then the pasuk afterwards says that V'nosan Hashem lachem. The Eibishter will give for you lechem tzar or mayim lachatz, the bread, the basic bread that you need, and the water, the basic water that you need. So we see that pasuk is talking about Talmidei Chachamim that live in Tzion, Yerushalayim, and they scream to the Eibishter, and the Eibishter gives them what they need. Rabavo says, Masbiya noisai miziv shchina. The Eibishter will satisfy him, not just give him the basics, but the Eibishter will satisfy him, and will be satisfied miziv shchina, from the ray, from the presence of the shchina. Shanema, the pasuk says that that your eyes will see your teacher, which refers to the Eibishter himself. Over there, it's in the continuation over there in the pasuk. It says that this pasuk. Any separation will never lack and separate between these that learn in this tchak. It will never separate between them and the Eibishter. Shanema, the pasuk there says. And the Eibishter will not cloak himself. He won't cover himself in any garment to hide himself from them. Going back to the Mishnah, it said in the Mishnah, the lashon of the Mishnah was, there's no day that the klolis that there are not getting stronger and more and more. That there's a klala in the world, that the tal does not come down for bracha, and so on. So Amar Rava said about this, every single day, the curse in the world is worse than the way it was before. Shenema, we learn this from the pasuk that it says in the Teicheche, in the morning you'll say, when is it going to be the evening? And in the evening you say, when is it going to be morning? It'll never be good. But what does this mean? Hi boiker. When the person says, when is it going to be morning, which morning does this refer to? Is he saying, when is it going to be tomorrow morning? But how does the person know what's going to be tomorrow? Why would he wish and hope for tomorrow if he doesn't know it's going to be any better? Rather, he's going to be saying, the halavai, we can go back to the way things were yesterday in the morning, because matters are always going to be getting worse and worse. The Rebbe once, more than once, spoke about this lashon of the Gemara here. This lashon of Kol Yom Merubah Kil Lasim Mishal Chavera. This is talking about the end of times before Mashiach comes. Why is the Gemara telling this to us? To make us depressed, to make a person sad about this? Chas v'shalom. Chazal are telling this to you so that you should understand when you see these things happening in the world, you shouldn't think that things just went off the tracks and out of control, and everything is mulmaila, everything is being orchestrated mulmaila. And if it's coming down to such a eifim that every day it's merubah kilas mishal chaveira, the Eibishter is doing this because we know that every yidid is tzarech aliyah, and it's empowering us, and the Chazal are letting us know that when you see this, so what is our aveda in the world? That adarabah, we have to bring that b'chol yom should be merubah in a bracha, in the positive, to utilize, to take every chayshach and to transform it into good. The Eibishter gives the kayach to deal with the darkness and to adarab, intensify out of that darkness itself to bring even greater bracha. That's the only reason Chazal are telling us about this. So the Gemara continues and says, "Ve'ela alma amai kamakayim." So on what is the world standing? So the Gemara is really asking, after such darkness, and every day the darkness gets more and more, so how could the world still continue to exist? Answers the Gemara, a kedusha de sidra. It's because we say kedusha every day, Kaddish, 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 and kedusha de sidra specifically refers to when you say the kedusha of uvalatzion. And over there we also say Kaddish, Kaddish. So Rashi explains the reason why that kedusha is more special than the kedusha that we say by Chazaras Hashat is because over there you say the kedusha, and the reason Chazal instituted to say the kedusha over there is because a person has to learn Torah every single day. So you say psukim, and we say over there the psukim together with the translation, together with the targum. So that's limud Torah, and then afterwards you say kaddish, the kaddish that we say with Amen Yehesh Mei Rabbah. So the limud Torah together with the kaddish is very chaviv, is very cherished by the Eibishter, and that's what brings the kiyum to the world. And another thing, va'ayehesh Mei Rabbah da agadata, and the Yehesh Mei Rabbah that said on the agadis that are learned. And Rashi says this refers to the agadis, and though in the times of the Gemara, the minig was that every Shabbos afternoon, when everybody's not working, everyone would gather to hear the drasha of the Rav that would speak agada. He would speak things of the stories and the secrets of the Torah that are in the stories of the Gemara. So again, over here you have the combination of limud Torah together with the Amen Yesh Mei Rabbah, the kedusha of the Eibishter, and that's very cherished by the Eibishter. The Rebbe spoke about this piece over in the Gemara also. It's in a Maimer Basel Legani Tafshe Chafalef, and there the Rebbe brings a Maimer of the Rebbe Marash, and he says what you basically see from our Gemara is that the Gemara is saying when you see the darkness of Golus, so how do you deal? What could you do with the darkness of Golus? And in the second answer that the Gemara is saying, Yehei Rabba da Agadata, Agadata we know is the secrets of the Torah, the Seidis and the Rosin of Torah. That's what Agadata is. So the Gemara is basically saying that the only way to overcome the darkness is to reveal more light and more secrets that there is in the Torah, and especially with Armin Yehei Rabba, which is the great revelation of the Eibishter. So this Gemara is the marker to the concept that Rebbe always speaks about, that people ask the question, that how could it be that Dafka in the later generations, when people are so small and we don't understand anything, that Dafka now there's the revelations of the secrets of the Torah and Chassidus that the Baal Shem Tov and all the Rabbeim following reveal. Right here is the source in this Gemara. The Gemara is saying that when you have such darkness and such curses in the world, the only way to deal with it is with Agadata, with Ami Yesh Meirabah, to reveal the secrets of the Torah, and that dispels the darkness. Shanema, the pasuk says that Eretz, Eifosa, the world is dark, K'may Eifel, as thick darkness, Tzalmavis, and death, V'loi Sedarim, and there's no Seder in the world. The Gemara will soon explain what this means here. I mean, Rashi here explains what this Lei Sedarim means. Hayesh Sedarim, Tefiyah Ma'ifel. If there is Sedarim, then it'll come out from this darkness. What does the word Sedarim mean? So Rashi says, Sidrei Parshi is the Torah. It refers to the Sedarim of a person saying the Parshi is Limud Torah, that takes us out from the darkness of the world. So it said in the Mishnah, V'lo yara tal avracha, and the v'nitl tam peiris v'chulu, that there's no tal for a blessing, and the good taste and the good pleasant aroma of fruits was removed. Tanya, we learned in Abraham, Reb Shimon Elazar, Tare, when there was no tar in the world, Batla tam, it took away the tam and v'reyach, the taste and the good aroma of the fruits. Meiser, when the meisers weren't given properly, Batal shuman dogan, so the fatness of the kernels of the grain was removed. Rav Huna, there was a story with Rav Huna, Ashkach Tumarte de Chinunisa. He found this date that was very fat and very good, had a very pleasant aroma. Shakla, he took it, Karcha Besudre, he wrapped it in his handkerchief, and also Rabbe Berei, and Rabbe his son came, and Amalei Murchina Reicha de Chinunisa. I smell a very pleasant smell of something, a very good fruit. He smelled this date. Amalei, so Rav Huna said to his son Rabbe, Bini, my son, Tare Yeshbach, there's purity in you. If not for the fact that you were pure, you wouldn't smell this pleasant smell from this fruit. You see over here from the Gemara that the smell of the fruits, they're there. You just have to have the Tare in order to sense it. So Rabbe sensed the smell. So Yoav and Ele, his father Rav Huna gave to his son this fruit. Ado Hachi, in between, Asa Abba Berei. Abba, the son of Rabbe, the grandson of Rav Huna, came. Shakla Yovanele. So Rabbe went and gave this fruit to his son, to Abba. Amalei, so Rav Huna tells the son Rabbe, Benis machta es libi. My son, you have made my heart happy, but at the same time, v'hikesa es shinai. But you have blunted my teeth. In other words, he was upset about something else. And he said, Hained Amri Inshi. This is the saying that people say, Rachmid Abbe Aboni. The mercy of a father is upon his son, on his children. But Rachmi the Bani, Abani, but then the mercy of the children is on their children. So I gave you something so good, and what do you do with it? You went and you gave it to your son. So the Gemara here says a story to prove this. The Havalei of Acha bar Yaakov. Sorry. These words go together. Huh?
Was he happy about what wasn't he?
He was happy about the fact that his son was in such a level of tara that he was able to sense the smell of this fruit. But he wasn't happy about the fact that he kept it for himself and he gave it to his son. Again, let me just read it.
As worthy as the son?
It doesn't say whether the grandson smelled it or not. It doesn't say here in the Gemara.
Sounds like he's upset that he gave it to him.
Yeah, that's what it says here. Let me just read the Gemara accurately here. Arachmi de bani, abani de havolei. You read it together. That the mercy of a son is on the children that he has. And the Gemara brings a story in connection to this. Rav Acha bar Yaakov, itapo bei berav Yaakov bar berate. So he basically raised his grandson, his daughter's son. Now Kigadol, when his grandson was older, Omalei, so his grandfather, Rav Acha tells his son, Ashke Maya, could you please, he tells his grandson, could you give me a cup of water? Omaloi, so his grandson tells him, Lav Brecha, no, I'm not your son, I don't have the mitzvah of kibbud, I'm not obligated to give you a cup of water. This is the saying that people say, Rabbi, you raise him and you raise him, but and then he comes and tells you back, I'm only your grandson, and I don't have to serve you. In the time when Aspasinus, which was a general that came to fight a war on Yerushalayim, this was, Rashi says, 52 years before the final battle on Yerushalayim, before the Churban. So then, Gozru ala Toris Chasanim, they made a gzeira to stop Chasanim from wearing these crowns. Vala Erus, and also a gzeira against Erus, which the Gemara will explain. But Pulmus shall Titus, when the war of Titus came on Yerushalayim, 52 years later, then Gozru ala Toris Kalis, they made the gzeira not for Kalis, not to, because of the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, so the Kalis should not wear these crowns. B'shlei Adam as Benoi Yevonis, and it was also a gzeira that children should not be taught Greek. Gemara will soon explain also what that means. But Pulmis ha'achrain, and then finally, by the last war, when the Churban happened, Gozru shalei teitze akala ba'apiryoin, they made the gzeira that a kala should not be brought out on this beautiful chariot when she was brought from her home to the chassan's home, b'toichir, inside the city. But v'Rabbi he tiru sheteitze akala ba'apiryoin b'toichir. Then the chachamim at that time wore matter that a kala should come out in this chariot in the city. When Rab Meir passed away, those that said parables for Torah were bottled. Rashi brings the parables that the Gemara says in another place that he would say he gave all kinds of parables for all kinds of things, from foxes and all. The Gemara says so. Those mishalim were people who did not have the koyach to say the mishalim like Rab Meir. Then Mishamei's Ben Azai. When Ben Azai passes away, Botla Shakdonim, those that were diligent in learning, did not exist anymore. There's a famous Gemara that says that Ben Azai didn't even want to get married because he says, what am I going to do? I want to learn Torah day and night. Mishamei's Ben Zayme, when Ben Zayme passed away, Botlu Adarshanim, the Darshanim, the Darshan, all the words of the Torah passed away. So Rashi here brings the famous thing that Ben Zayme said regarding Zchiras Yitzias Mitzrayim, that he darshaned the words of the pasuk to say about when you have to remember Yitzias Mitzrayim. Mishamei's Rabbi Akiva, when Rabbi Akiva passed away, Botl covered that Torah. The honor of Torah was bottled. Rabbi Akiva would darshan every letter, every kites and kites of Torah, every extra thing, everything in Torah. That's the honor of Torah. Mishameiz Rab Chanina ben Daisa botlu anchi maisa. People of great actions passed away. So Rashi says, Maisa Muflan. There's the Gemara that describes in Tainus about these tremendously wondrous miracles that he made in the world. Mishameiz Rabbi Yesi Katanta Pasku Chasidim. The Chasidim passed away. He was the last one. That was a Chassid. He was from this last and the smallest of the Chassidim. When Rabbi Yechanan ben Zakkai passed away, Batal Ziva Chachma, the Ziv, the shine of Chachma, stopped. Rashi here says, Lo Yadayna Mahi, not sure what this is. The covet of Torah was stopped. So Rashi says that until his times, so there was strength in the world and people were able to learn Torah standing. And they give the proper honor from Torah. After he passed away, people were sitting and learning. Umeisa tara uprishus, and there was no more purity and no more separation in the world. Mishameis Rabbi Shmuel ben Pabi passed away. Batla ziv akohuna, the shine of kohuna stopped. Some say that he himself was a kohen. Rashi here described that he had an open home and he was rich and he always had a lot of kohenim eating by his table. Mishameis Rebbe, when Rebbe passed away, Batal Anova, the Yiras Chet, humility and the fear of sin was Batal. So according to Rashi, it's mashma that this continuation here is all part of the Mishnah. What some say, the Gemara begins over here. Pinchas ben Yair says, Mishachar Beis HaMikdash, when the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, Baishu Chaverim, all of the Chaverim, the Chachamim, they were embarrassed. Of Bnei Chayrin, and the Bnei Chayrin, Rashi says, the Miyuchasin, the people with prominence, with a good lineage, also were all embarrassed. V'chafu Reisham, there was embarrassment on their head. V'nidaldulu Anshe Maisa, and those people of good deeds were dwindling. V'gavru Bali Zroya, and people with a strong arm, people that go and are strong. Physically, they were stronger in the world. Upali Loshen, people that speak with their mouth against others. There's nobody to seek or to ask or to request things of truth from the Eibishter. In such a time period, who could we rely on? Only on the Eibishter himself. Rabbi Elazar says, from the day that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, Sharuch Hakimaya, L'mehevi kasafraya. So the Chachamim that were on a higher level, they came down a level, and they were just like the level of the Safraya, like the ones that teach children. The Safraya and the ones that were teaching children also came down on a level, Chazanaya, and they were just like the Chazanaya, which refers to the Shamashim. And then Chazanaya, Ka'amidara, the Chazanaya, they came down on a level like the Amiyara, like the people living in the world, just the plain individuals. Ozla, Vidildila, and they go and they dwindle, or Menavla is another gears here, they get lower and lower. Asher is great as Vinavla. Ve'ein Shayo ve'ein Mevakish, there's no one that's looking and requesting and asking of anything from Hashem. Al mi yesh lanu li'ishan, al avinu shebashamayim, so we can't rely on anybody, only on the Eibishter himself. Ve'ikvis Mashiach, in the times, in the end of Golus, right before Mashiach comes, Chutzpah Yaski. Chutzpah will be plenty. V'yoiker Yamer, and the price of food, or price of things, will also go up. Rashi says everyone's going to be busy drinking and using it, so that itself will bring up the price. That's what it seems like Rashi is saying over here. Yamer, the word Yamer means go up. The Taisus Yontif says that Yamer goes like on the top of a tree. That's called Yamer. Hagefen titim pirya, the vineyard that is will still provide grapes. But vayayim b'yoker, but never. Oh, sorry. So when Rashi says everyone's going to be busy drinking, it goes on the wine here. That the wine will be very expensive. V'yoker yama before. I don't think. Today we see this. The inflation, whatever the prices of everything is skyrocketing. Yeah, weiter sagt der Mishnah, Malchus tehafich leminus, and the kingdom will become minus, will be against the Eibishter, to deny the Eibishter's existence. Ve'ein teichachas, and there's nobody to rebuke. There's nobody that you can give rebuke to. Everyone is stumbling on the same averis. Beizvad, the place that used to be a place where the Chachamim used to gather, will instead become into Yel is Nus. It'll become a place which is filled of znus, filled of inappropriate behavior. In those times, the Beis HaMedrash was sort of outside the city. So now that these places become empty, so that's a place where all Avedas go there outside. V'hagol yicharev, Golil, in the north of Eretz Yisrael, will be destroyed. V'hagavlon yishum, Gavlon, a name of a place, will also become desolate. V'anshi agvul, the people of the borders of Eretz Yisrael, this refers to. Basically, all of Eretz Yisrael, Yisayvivu, Me'ir, Le'ir, are going to go around from one city to another, V'lo yichanenu, and nobody will do any favors for them. The chachmais seifrim, the chachmais of the chachamim, tisrach, will spoil. Nobody will be interested in this. The Mashayah says that people won't look up to people that are wise. Chachma will not be looked at as something valuable. The yirechet, people that are God-fearing, yimas will be disgusted. V'ha'emes tehena deres, and truth will be lacking. Na'arem p'niskenim yalbinu, the young will be embarrassing the old, and Zekeinim yamdu mipnei ktanim, the old will have to get up for the young. Ben menavel av, a son will embarrass a father. Bas kama be'ima, a daughter will get up against the mother. Kala b'chamaisa, a daughter-in-law against the mother-in-law. Oive ish anshe beisai, and the person will have hatred from his own people in his own home. Penei adir, the face of the people of the generation will be kipnei akelev, like the face of a dog. Which means either literally or kipnei kelev, meaning that like a dog that acts without any embarrassment. There's a famous pshat that the Welt says on pnei adar kipnei kelev, when you see a person walking his dog and the dog's in front of him, it looks like the dog is leading the person that's holding on to the leash, but the truth is it's the other way around. The dog keeps on looking back to see where the person wants to go. Same thing also with the leaders, that leaders are like, they look like they're leading, but they're really just looking behind them to see what do people think about them. Weiter in the Mishnah, haben einem misbayish maviv, a son is not embarrassed of a father. Valma yesh lanu lishoin, the third time the Mishnah says again, who do we have to rely on? Alavinu shebashamayim, on our Father in heaven. So again, this line over here, Alma yesh lanu lishoin, Alavinu shebashamayim, it can be taken as like a sort of a sign of despair, but the emes says no, the Mishnah is saying it be'emes, that in this time period, so all other levels of giluyim, all other levels of godliness is not there. You just have to turn to the Eibishter himself, and the Eibishter himself is there for you and gives you kayach to see through all this darkness, to come to the last moments before Mashiach. Sagt die Gemara, The what? So, before this, there's other things to learn from. Like I said, Avinu Shebashamayim refers to the Eibishter himself. But then there's other levels of Giluyim. Over here is saying in this last time period of Galus, there's no godly revelations on any levels. It's the Eibishter himself. Zok the Gemara. Omar Rav. So Rav said, Loishanu, going back to the first thing that it said in the Mishnah about the crown that there is for the Chasanim, so that they asked this. Loishanu elo shel melach v'gofris. This is only when it was made out of melach. Rashi says melach refers to some, it sounds like from Rashi, some kind of a beautiful crystal, and then they inscribed on this with sulfur. This was the way this crown was made. So that's what they made exeda that's not allowed. There's another place that Rashi says that it was made with gold and that they used melach and gofris to inscribe in it. If it's made from a myrtle branch or from other flowers, so then mutter, that's allowed. Shmuel says afshal hadas v'shal vered, that also from myrtle or from flowers, also it's also not allowed. Shalkanim shal chelas, if it's made from various kinds of reeds, mutter, that's allowed. Levi said afshal kanim v'shal chelas also, even if it's made, this crown is made from reeds, it's also not allowed. Levi learned in the Braisa afshal kanim v'shal chelas also, from reeds is not allowed. Another Gzeda was Vala Irus. What's this Irus? My Irus. Omer Abelazar, Tabla Dechad Puma. This is a bell with one clapper in it. So it sounds like this is a kind of bell that they would bang on the bell, and the point over here didn't make a noise like a bell, but it made a noise like banging on a drum, as we see here in the continuation of the Gemara. Rabbi Bar Avhuna Ovid Le Lebrei Tambura. So Rabbi Bar Avhuna, when he married off his son, he prepared for the wedding a tambourine to be used as a musical instrument. Asa Avua, so his father, Rav Huna, came. If you remember before, the Gemara said, Rav Huna was the one that was very, very strict about not allowing any song, any music. Amalei, so he said to him, Asa Avua, that is, so his father, Rav Huna, came, Tavre, he broke this tambourine. Amalei, so he said to him, the reason why I'm breaking this is because Mechlav betavle dechat puma. The sound that there is of this tambourine that you made for your son is similar to the sound of this irus, of this bell that Chachamim said it should not be used. So instead he said to him, Zil ovid le'apuma dechatzpa. If you want to make a tambourine, make it on the top of a jug. Put over on the top of a jug, a apuma de capizo, on top of a barrel, and you put over a hide, a piece of hide over it, and then you want to use that as a tambourine. That has a different sound, and that's okay. So then they made a gzeda for the crowns and the kalas not to be used. My ataris kalas, what are these crowns? They used to make this crown that was like in the shape of this golden city. Tanya Nami Yochi, we learned this in the Braisa as well. Ezeu ataris kalis. What is this crown of kalas? Ir shel zahav, this golden city. Aval oisa kipa shel milas. You could make it like a covering that's made from milas, from fine wool. That's allowed. Tane in Abraisa we learned af al chupas chasanim gozru. Also on the chuppah that was made for chasanim, they made a gzeda not to be used. My chupas chasanim. What was this chuppah? Zohairis hamuzheves. It was made with red threads, and then it was made together with gold laced into it. Tanya Nam Yaches we learned also in Abraisa elen chupas chasanim zohairis hamuzheves. This gold with the red threads. Aval oise papyrus, but you could make this head covering, which Rashi says papyrus is made from different wooden things that have in it also gold, but from wood. And v'toilo b'kom ashir, so you could hang on this wooden covering whatever you want. Then the Mishnah said they made a gzeira v'shala yilmad as benoi yevonis. Do not teach your children the Greek. What does this mean? Tana Rabbanon. So we learned in Abraisa the reason they made this gzeira. When there was a big fight between two of the kings of the Chashmonai, that they fought with one another, Rashi brings there was a fight between Hyrcanus and Aristobulus. So then Hyrcanus mibachutz, Hyrcanus was outside the walls of Yerushalayim, Aristobulus mibifnim. Aristobulus was on the inside, and Hyrcanus had the support of the Romans that came to support him. So then what happened? So there was a siege placed on the city. They couldn't go out from the city. But so they needed to have the animals for the karbanis, the korban tamid brought every day. So every single day, so the people of Aristobulus that were inside, they would put in a box, they would put coins, and they would lower it down the wall outside. And they would give them in exchange, they would lift up animals to be brought for the korban tamid over the wall. Yeshom zakin echad. There was one older individual, sheyamake b'chachmas Yevanis, that knew the chachma of Yevanis. Laws lehem. So he translated and he explained to them, b'chachmas Yevanis, and he would explain to them, he would teach them, he would think Chachmas Yavanis. And Amar Lahem, and he says to them, to the people that are outside, that place the siege on the city of Yerushalayim, Kozman Sha'iskim Ba'aveda, as long as the Yidden that are inside could bring the carbon tamid every day, Einim Saram B'yadchem, they'll never be given over into your hands. So in other words, you're giving them the carbon every day. So because of this, you can't conquer the city. L'machar, the next day, Shul Shalem Dinarim B'kupa, they gave them the coins in a basket or in a box for the karbonis, and v'helem chazer. Instead of giving the animal for the carbon, they attached to a string a chazer. Kivin shegiya lachatzi chayma. So when they were lifting this chazer, it came to the half of the wall to go up. Noatz tziparnov, it stuck its fingers into the wall, and nizdaza Eretz Yisrael Abba Meya Parsi. The entire Eretz Yisrael, which is the size of 400 parsais, was shaking. So Amru, at that time they said, Arer Adam Shi Gadol Chazerim. Cursed is a person that raises pigs. Va'arer Adam Shi Lamed Libnoi Chachmas Yavanis. And cursed is an individual that teaches his son the Chachma Yavanis, because this Eitzah came from this individual that was teaching Chachma Yavanis. Val Oisa Shana Shaninu, on that time or on that year, it was said, Maisa, that the story happened was Oba Oimer Migagais Tzrifim, that they had to bring the carbon Oimer, and the Oimer that has to be brought from a specific place. Usually they had a specific place around Yerushalayim that they used to bring the carbon Oimer from, but then because of the war that was around Yerushalayim, so they couldn't bring from there, so they had to bring it from a far place, Gagais Tzrifim, or Shtei Alechem, also the Shtei Alechem that had to be brought, it was brought also from a far place, Mibikas Ein Seicher, from this valley Ein Seicher, which was far away. Okay, so this is the source of this story that happened, that they made Gzeire not to teach, not to learn Chachma Yavanis. Fragt the Gemara, is this true? Can we say that they made Gzeire not to learn Yavanis? But for Ha'amar Rebbe. Rebbe said, Be'eretz Yisrael, in Eretz Yisrael, Lashon Sursi Loma. Rebbe said, why should you speak this Lashon Sursi in Eretz Yisrael? What is this Lashon Sursi? Rashi says, it's a version of Aramaic, and it's the language of the Talmud Yerushalmi. And it's not such a beautiful language. Ella ilashon HaKadosh, or you should speak Lashon Kodesh, ilashon Yavanis, or speak Greek, which is a nicer language. In connection to this, the Gemara also brings Vamid of Yosef, Bebavel and Bavel, he said, Lashon Arami Lama, why should we speak Aramaic? Ella ilashon HaKadosh, or you should speak Lashon HaKadosh, or ilashon Parsi, or Persian, which is a nicer language. So the point is, you see over here that in Eretz Yisrael, he said that they should and could speak Lashon Yavanis Greek. So the Gemara answers, Lashon Yavanis L'chod, the Greek language, yeah, that's allowed. But the Chachma Yavanis, that's what the Gezeidah was on, that they shouldn't be learning Chachmas Yavanis, which is there's different Mefarshim would explain what Chachma Yavanis is, philosophy, and so on. Fragt the Gemara, but the Chachma Yavanis, Greek philosophy, Miyasira, is that forbidden? But Rav Yehuda Mashmuel Mishum Rav Shimon Gamliel, he said about what Rav Shimon Gamliel said. The pasuk says, "Eini oila lenafshi mikol b'nai siri." My eyes are crying and I'm sad about all the daughters of my city. What did he say? Elof yiladim hayu b'beis Abba. In my father's house there were 1,000 children that were raised there. Chamish meis lamdu Torah. 500 of them learned Torah. The Chamish meis lamdu Chachmas Yavanis. But there was another 500 that learned Greek philosophy. But from all these 1,000 children, all that was left from them was Ella Ani. I'm the only one that survived. Khan, I'm here. Uben Achi Abba Basya, and I have a cousin that lives in Asya. So, but we see that in Rav Shimon Gamliel's father's home, they taught 500 of them learned Chachma Yavanis. That's the Gemara. Shani shal beis Rav Gamliel. In the house of Rav Gamliel was different. The Kroivin Lamalchus Hava, because they were close to the kingdom, and it was necessary for them to learn Chachma Yavanis. The Tanya, as we learned in the Braise, Mispar Kumi, a person takes a haircut with a certain hairstyle where you leave hair in the back, sounds like sort of a ponytail. So this is Darki Amayri. You're not allowed to take such a haircut. But nevertheless, Avtulos ben Ruvain, this individual, Hitiru L'Sapa Kumi, they allowed him to cut his hair in this way. And the reason is Shukat of Lamalchus, because he was close to the Malchus and therefore he had to have this kind of a hairstyle. So the Mefarshim explain, this hairstyle, either it's an Issim Rabbanon or could even be from the Rambam, it's mashma that it's Issim Atayra, but it's only usher if you're doing it for the purpose to assimilate with the Goyim. But if a person is not doing it for the purpose to assimilate, but he's doing it because of his position in the government, so then it's allowed. So Shalbeis Rav Gamliel Hitirul and Chachma Yavanis, the similar in the house of Rav Gamliel, they allowed to learn Chachma Yavanis The Greek philosophy because of their closeness to the government.
Kids got killed.
Again?
How long ago all the kids?
Yeah, all of them, even the ones that learn Torah as well. So and then they made the Gzeira by the Chorban that Akala should not go out with this beautiful chariot, but then eventually they said that no, she could go out with this. My time, Mishum Tzniya said. The reason is because of modesty. So like this, she doesn't have to just walk openly exposed in the street. She's going from her house to the Chassan's house, so she can go on this chariot for modesty. Shemeis Rabbi Yechanan, Batla, HaChochme, the Chochme was Batla. So Tan Rabbana, Mishemes Rabbi Eliezer, Nigna Sefer Torah. When Rabbi Eliezer passed away, so the Sefer Torah was hidden. What does Sefer Torah mean? So Rashi says that he knew all the halachas of Torah, everything was clear, and he was able to give over all halachas in every single area. Rashi brings over the Gemara in Sanhedrin that says thousands of halachas that he had clear. Mishemes Rabbi Shua, Batla Eitze Umachshava. Good advice to know how to answer. And Machshava, Rashi brings that Rabbi Shua was the one that used to have arguments, and he used to, not arguments, but he used to give answers to all those that argue with the Yidden. So he was able to give answers. And after he passed away, Chachamim said, who's going to respond now? Mishemes Rabbi Kiva Batlu Zroye Torah. Rabbi Kiva passed away, so then the Zroye Torah, the arms of Torah, Rashi says, the depth of the svaris of understanding Torah Shabbat Peh, and how to darshan every word in Torah, that stopped. And when Istatnu Mayonis HaChachma, and the wellsprings of Torah were closed. Shemeis Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Batlu Ataris Chachma, the crowns of Chachma were bottled. Sha'ateres Chachamim Ashram, the crown of the Chachamim is their richness. Mishemeis Rabbi Chanina ben Daisa Batlu Anshe Maise. The Anshe Maise, as I mentioned before, that Rashi says in the Mishnah, the wondrous things that he did stop. Mishemeis Abba Yosef ben Katunte Batlu Chsidim. He was from the smallest and the last of the Chsidim. Mishemeis ben Azai, Batla Shakdanim, the ones that were diligent in learning. Mishemeis ben Zayma, Batla Darshanim, Mishemeis Rab Shimon Gamliel, Allah Goivai, Virabu Tzarais, and all the Tzarais, Allah Goivai is the grasshoppers came to attack Eden. And I believe that's a taich, am I right? And V'rabu Tzares, and there's a lot of Tzares for the Mishemeis Rebbe. When Rebbe passed away, Hochbalu Tzares, the Tzares in the world were double. The last thing it said in the Mishnah was Mishemeis Rebbe, Batla Anova V'yiras Cheit, that humility and fear of sin was bottled. So Amalei Rav Yosef Latana. Rav Yosef said to the Tana, Loi Tisni Anove. Do not say that Anove, that humility is bottled, because the Ikana, because I am here. And Rashi says, Ikana Shani Amvesen, I'm humble. Amalei Rav Nachman Latana. Rav Nachman says to the Tana, Loi Tisni Yiras Chet. Do not say that Yiras Chet is bottled, the Ikana, because I am here. Adlo Narach, Egla Rufa, Veslikala Masechta Saite. So here, in this last piece of the Gemara, the Rebbe made a hadran on Masechta Sotah many times, and the Rebbe spoke about this from every angle, all kinds of pirushim here in the Gemara. The famous question that the Maharsha here asks on the conclusion of the Gemara is that for a person to come along and say that do not say that humility is nullified because I'm humble seems to be the epitome of the opposite of humility. So how's Rabbi Yosef saying this? So the pshat in this is that humility does not mean a person that does not know his self-worth or his value or his talents that he has. That's what's called a shuffle. A person is just low in his eyes, he doesn't have any self-worth. An anav is something different. An anav is a person that knows exactly all the gifts that the Eibishter gave him, but he knows that it's just a gift from above. And furthermore, he thinks to himself, if someone else would be getting the same talents as me, he would have probably developed it much more than me. So I could be humble. So that's why it's possible for Rav Yosef to say that I am an anav, and he still is an anav. Another thing that Rebbe explained, that when Rav Yosef said that the Ikar no, so the reason he said this is because he understood that someone else would develop his talents much more. But Rav Nachman actually disagreed with this. The Rebbe says that it's a sort of a machlokes over here. Rav Nachman held that Rav Yosef learned Torah, and he became on such a high level that he was so different than everyone else. We learned earlier in the Masechta, a person that learns Torah becomes separated from all Averis. He's on such a high level that it's impossible for him to compare himself to anyone else and say that someone else would have developed the talents further, and therefore he held that Rav Yosef cannot have a real humility. And on the other hand, Rav Nachman says, the story of Rav Nachman was, when he was born, his mother made sure that he always had a yarmulke, always had a head covering. It's a story with Rav Nachman, and therefore he had a tremendous yiras chet. The Gemara said before he was born, his mother was told that her son is going to be a big thief and he's going to have very bad midas, and she made sure he always wore a yarmulke, and he turned out to be a tremendous yirei chet. So that's what Rav Nachman said, that Yikana, that he had a tremendous Yiras Chet. But Rav Yosef held that the Yiras Chet that Rav Nachman has was a result of the revelation that came to him because of his yarmulke and things, but not something that was really internal inside of him. And therefore Rav Yosef disagreed with Rav Nachman regarding what he said, the Yikana. That's one word that the Rebbe says in the Sikha. This is in Chelik Yud Gimel and Parshas Ba'aleischa. But as I said, the Rebbe spoke about this many, many times. Another one more word that the Rebbe said about the conclusion of the Masechta. How is this connected to the entire Masechta? The Masechta Sotah speaks about not going and secluding with another man, going away from one's husband. And the same thing is also with the Yidden and the Eibishter. The Eibishter is the husband and the Yidden are the wife. And when a Yid goes away from the Eibishter, what does this refer to? The Gemara said before in this Masechta that if a person is a Bal Gaiva, person is self-centered, ein anivu hu yochayl lader. So the Eibishter says, I can't live with this Yid. So if a Yid has Gaiva, so then that basically means that a Yid is acting like a Sotah, and he's secluding himself with someone else, he's separating himself from the Eibishter. So therefore the Masechta finishes off with the inyan of Anove, that this is the healing for a person that's a Sotah to bring humility. And the Gemara here is telling you, the Ikana, that it's still possible, even after it says Mishameis, Batla, but it's still possible to have this inyan of Anove. And Bechlal, okay, one more word when you get to the last blot here. This last blot is very heavy. The Gemara talks about the darkness and the times of Golas that there's in. The Rebbe says it's also connected to the theme of the entire Masechta. The whole Masechta is talking about the Sotah and the Meichel Sa'irim, the Nefesh Bahamis that a person has to deal with in his life, all kinds of darkness. And nevertheless, a person sees this Nefesh Bahamis, you may become overwhelmed, and you may say, no, too bad, I have this Nefesh Bahamis, there's nothing I can do about it. So in the last blot, it talks also not only about a person's own personal nefesh bahamis, but it talks b'chlal about the darkness that there is in the world, and it keeps on saying again, al mi yesh lanu li'ishan al avinu shebashamayim, that Eibusha gives us the kayach to deal with this and to overcome this darkness until we come finally to the coming of Mashiach. I just want to read over here the last thing that it says in the Gemara, even though this really comes from the Gemara and Avodah Zarah, but according to some versions, this is the conclusion of the Masechta here. That Pinchas ben Yair Reimer, Zehiras mevile de zrizos, zrizos mevile de nekiyas, nekiyas mevile de tara, tara mevile de prishus, prishus mevile de kedusha, kedusha mevile de anova, anova mevile de yiras chet mevile de chsidis, chsidis mevile de ruach hakodesh mevile de tchias amesim boy de al iro, anovi zal b'meheira v'yameinu, yavav yigalenu, ken yehi ratzon amen.